Kia ora, everyone. I'm Richard Templar. I'm the Chief Executive of Aotearoa Engineering New Zealand. And with me is Peter McCombs, who's the chair of our Distinguished Fellowship panel. And it's our pleasure today to talk to you about what's involved in becoming a Distinguished Fellow of Engineering New Zealand. So we're going to, we've done the welcome and introductions. We're going to talk about what is a Distinguished Fellow, the process for application, what's needed from the nominators and sponsors, and then Peter's going to talk to you about what the panel does and how they do things. So I'll get underway now. So Engineering New Zealand, Te Aorangaho's Distinguished Fellows are fellows who are recognised for their eminent contribution to the profession. And despite the somewhat gendered nature of the word fellow, it applies to everyone. This is the top tier of membership. The standard for Distinguished Fellows is exceedingly high. And the difference between being a fellow and a distinguished fellow is eminence, sustained leadership and profile, and the mana the person holds in both the industry and the profession. So it's unashamedly a very high bar to get to be a distinguished fellow. And essentially all our distinguished fellows will typically have been a fellow previously, and we're looking for what they have achieved post their becoming a fellow. So what's involved in the process of becoming a distinguished fellow? So an application is put in, and that's typically done by a lead nominator who reviews the eligibility criteria and the guidance. So the lead nominator needs to go through and make sure the person is eligible and then follow the advice we provide. The nominator contacts sponsors and completes the application form. So the nominator completes the form, but also gets input from sponsors. So these sponsors are typically fellows or other distinguished fellows, and they write about what the person has achieved and why they are suitable for the role. The nominator submits the form to Engineering New Zealand by Friday, the 1st of September. So in under 3 weeks' time. We'll check the form for completeness, particularly your sponsors, membership status and adherence to the word count. We then organise a phone interview with the nominator and sponsors, asking for comments on the application. And it's normally myself or Jodie Corley, one of our GMs, who makes the calls. These are actually a really enjoyable part of our role because it's absolutely fascinating getting to know the candidates better. And we ask a series of probing questions to get a better understanding about the candidate. In October, the Distinguished Fellows panel will review the applications and they meet and discuss them in detail. We don't typically have a large number of applications, so this meeting's face-to-face, and each of the applications is worked through very thoroughly. And then recommendations are made to the governing board. In November, the governing board reviews and then finalises and approves who will be Distinguished Fellows. And in December, the results are published. And then the following year at our Fellows and Distinguished Fellows dinner, those people are awarded their Distinguished Fellowship. So for nominators and sponsors, nominations need to be submitted using our Distinguished Fellowship nomination form. Nominations must include the names of 2 independent referees who are standing in the profession. They need to have the knowledge to provide an informed comment on the candidate's attributes and suitability for the award of a Distinguished Fellow. So they need to be someone who knows the Distinguished Fellow nominee well and know them both from what are their personal attributes, but also their professional qualities and what they've achieved. At least one of the referees must be a Distinguished Fellow of Engineering New Zealand or an equivalent institution. So if you are a Distinguished Fellow from another engineering organisation or equivalent to that, that can be one of the referees. It doesn't just have to be a New Zealand awarded Distinguished Fellow. And now I'll hand over to Peter for some comment. Over to you, Peter.
Thank you very much, Richard. I'm delighted to see considerable interest from across our audience to come along to this session. I'm privileged, is the word I need, to currently be the chair of the Distinguished Fellows Committee or panel. We have a group of us, there's 5 of us all together, and the chair rotates. So I'm currently 1-year appointment, and I'm glad to be able to do that. I'd encourage you to get involved in this. We are looking for people who can be properly recognised as being distinguished. When the submissions arrive, our committee obviously examine them with considerable interest, but perhaps I might just run through the criteria that we are looking at in order to select Distinguished Fellows and nominate them up to the Engineering New Zealand board for such an award. The first thing we're looking for is their commitment, a personal assessment of their commitment to the profession. Have they, will they, have they a record? Can they demonstrate a true and remarkable commitment to engineering as a profession? The next thing we're looking for is for an enduring legacy. Has what they've done left a mark that you can see and recognise and deserves to be appreciated widely by way of such an award? Is it enduring? Does it go on? We are then interested in their broad reputation. Is it local? Is it New Zealand-wide? Does it have an international dimension to the reputation they hold? Remember, we are looking for exceptional service to the profession. Resilience, in the sense that, has it mattered? Is it an issue, has their work contributed in a manner which will be enduring and has resilience when it comes to time? We also have a look at the external relationships that they've built and whether, in turn, that has added to, widened, strengthened that of Engineering New Zealand. And the overall assessment, have they made a difference? Is there a difference which we can see, which others can recognise, and which we can ourselves deserves being promoted to the rank of a Distinguished Fellow? Now, when such applications arrive, I might say that I am humbled by the examples we get to see. They are included amongst them are truly extraordinary people whose service, whose achievements, whose mark in engineering in an international scene is, I might add the word, almost breathtaking. That is what we're looking for. We're looking to see and recognise the exceptional service to the profession of professional engineering. When you come to have a look at the application form, you will see these attributes and the criteria that are used to set out more plainly. Take the time, please, to read them carefully and to fill out the form in a manner that will help us get to know, understand, appreciate the service that the person has given. I look forward to your responses.
Thank you very much, Peter. That's a fantastic summary of what the panel is looking for and what the panel does. I have the good fortune of sitting in on the panel discussions, and like Peter, it's quite awe-inspiring, the quality of people who are put up for these awards. Now is a chance for you to ask us any questions. So I'll actually stop sharing so you can see us a little easier. And we'll see if there are any questions that you would like to ask us. Just pop them in the chat if you'd like. So I'm not seeing any questions at the moment. So if there are no questions, if you have any questions, feel free to email myself or Caitlin, Fee, or Jodie, and we'll get back to you with answers. But given we don't appear to have any questions, I'll
wonder if we might just...
Oh, here we go. The question is from Kieran. Please, can you expand the definition of independence? So, Peter, would you like to answer that one?
Well, I think we're looking here to see whether the person themselves have made the difference. I can appreciate that there will be circumstances in which a team of people will have achieved something remarkable. But beyond that, this isn't a personal award that is amounts to recognition of somebody's particular achievement, the contribution that they have made, that they have brought to the team perhaps, or in their own work. Almost all of us will have done things together with others on the basis that we achieve more together. But this award is a personal award, a recognition of a personal ability, a personal contribution that they've made.
So the next question is, does the second referee need to be a fellow? So the answer to that is no. As long as one of the referees is a distinguished fellow, the second referee does not need to be a fellow. They often are, but that's not essential. Just to point Peter's just pointed out, these nominations are typically confidential, so we don't actually talk to the person who has been nominated. So there is a need for confidentiality around that. Sometimes they are informed by the people who put the application in. Other times they intentionally keep things a secret from them. How do we access the list of current Distinguished Fellows of Engineering New Zealand? If you look on our website, you can search Distinguished Fellows. You can see people who have been awarded in the last few years, and also in our Find an Engineer, you can see whether any given engineer who's a member of ours is a Distinguished Fellow or not.
I might just add there that when you look down that list, or we hold it up at arm's length and say, you know, what proportion of our membership do we have contained within Distinguished Fellows? Our committee is of the view that there should be more. That doesn't imply a change or a lessening of standards. I think what we're looking for, and the effort is being made this year and other years, to widen the awareness by you, by attending this seminar, and in other means of stimulating the wider membership to know about this ability to be elected as a distinguished fellow and recognised by those around you. So please keep that in mind. We are keen to receive nominations, and they and the circumstances and context in which they come will speak for itself. We look forward to that.
I note there's was a question about being sent a copy of the webinar, and nice to see a name I recognise in terms of Richard Flay. Good to hear from you, Richard. So Caitlin's responded to that. The question is there a minimum amount of experience required, a number of years? In a formal sense, no. But in a realistic sense, most people will have had to be an engineer for a reasonable amount of time before they can become a fellow. And then you typically need to have been a fellow for a reasonable amount of time to be a distinguished fellow. So we wouldn't have many distinguished fellows who I would suggest have done less than, say, 15 years in the profession, and most would have done more than 20.
I was just thinking that we're really looking for the unsung heroes of our profession, Richard, aren't we? But
yeah,
they are there. We know, we can see it in the work that's done. But recognition is what this is about.
And just to add to the answers that were typed in case people have missed them, everyone who's registered for the webinar will be sent a link to the recording once that's finalised. And secondly, if you're looking for a fellow or a distinguished fellow, you can search on fellow or distinguished fellow in our Find an Engineer database, which is on our website. Question from Lindsay. The nomination form spaces do not seem to align very directly with the criteria. That the nomination form is set up hopefully to make it reasonably straightforward for people to talk about the candidate. It's in our reading of that the panel can extract out of what's written how candidates match up against the criteria. And nice to hear from you, Lindsay. Question, does this relate at all to being chartered? So you can be a fellow and a distinguished fellow without being a chartered professional engineer, because obviously your line of work tends to have more of an influence as to whether you are chartered. But it's quite common for both fellows and distinguished fellows to also be chartered professional engineers, but it will depend on their field of work. If you're, say, a civil structural engineer, it's highly likely you'll be chartered. If, for example, you're a mechanical engineer and worked in manufacturing space, you may not. We'll just stay on the line for a few more minutes in case any other questions come in. Oh. May be helpful to include the list of attributes on the application form to assist nominees. Yes, I think that would be something useful to do. We'll keep that in mind as we do an update of the application form for next year's fellows applications.
Excuse me, Richard, I just want to add there that the attributes are actually in the guidelines.
Thanks, Fee. Give it another minute or so, and if there are no further questions, we'll wrap things up. But I really want to thank everyone for their attention and some really good questions. If you do have further questions, please contact either myself or Fee Reid, and she is at board.secretary@engineeringnz.org. And I'm obviously richard.templer@engineeringnz.org. So thank you.
But if we're winding it up, I'm encouraged by the attendance we have here, and suggest turning your mind to the champions in your life, those you've met through the course of your working life, those that you can see and record in your own field as having been exceptional. Please, we're willing and look forward to your taking the trouble to fill in the form, find the attached and associated referees who would share your views, and let's have them 1 September.
Yep. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for your interest and for your attention, and I look forward to seeing the applications. Ka kite anō.